Robin Sharma, the 5M Club, Own Your Morning, Elevate Your Life. We'll cover Chapter 6, A Flight to Peak Productivity, Vert- Verticity, and Undefeatability. Your time is limited, so don't waste living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the result of other people thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinion drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage of follow your heart and intuitions. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Steve Jobs. I'm so tired, the entrepreneur muttered with the energy of an ancient turtle on a vacation day while holding the monstrous cup of tea. This journey might be harder than I thought. I'm starting to feel like I am walking into a whole new world. Like I told you yesterday after the seminar, I am definitely ready to change, set for a new beginning, but I am also feeling uneasy about all this. I didn't sleep much last night. Such eerie and sometimes violent dreams, and yes, this experience we have agreed to might be dangerous. Well, I feel like death, man, said the artist. I hate being up this early. This was a terrible idea. The two brave souls were standing on the sidewalk outside the hall where the spellbinder had worked his legendary skills and broken many hearts with his collapse the day before. He won't show up, barked the artist roughly. He was dressed in a black with a ruby red polka dotted banana on his left wrist. Same boots as yesterday, those Australian ones. He hurled a mouthful of spit into desolate street. He squinted at the sky and then he folded his tat- tattooed arms. The entrepreneur had a nylon duffel bag over her shoulders. She styled a silk blouse with Bohemian sleeves, designers, blue jeans, and a pair of sandals with high heels. The kind you see of duty supermodels with sunglasses the size of geek Iceland sunset wearing. Her lips were scrunched together and the lines of her face were added in a series of interesting intersections. I'd bet the homeless man, a no so, she said with a sneer. I don't care about his voice. I don't matter that he could be so articulate. It means nothing to me now that he reminded me of my dad. God, I am exhausted. He was probably at the seminar because he needed a place to rest for a few hours. He probably knew about the whole 5 a.m. club morning routine because he heard and stole that bit of the spellbinder's presentation. And the private plane he talked about was probably part of his favorite hallucinations. The entrepreneur had returned to her familiar skepticism and hiding within her fortress of protections. The hopefulness of the day before had uh, disclosed, clearly dissolved. Just then, a pair of strikingly powerful halogen headlights pierced the wall of darkness. The two companions looked at each other. The entrepreneur managed a smile. Okay, maybe instinct really is a much smarter than reasons. She muttered to herself. A gleaming Rolls Royce, the color of coal, pulled up to the curb with swift efficiency. A man in a crisp white uniform leaped out of the sedan and greeted the two with old school civility. Good morning to you, madam, and to you as well, sir. He insinuated a British accent as he placed their backs into the vehicles with one skillful swoop. Where's the derelict? Asked the artist with the tact of hillbilly who'd never left the woods. The drivers couldn't help but laugh. Quickly he regained his composure. So sorry, sir. Yes, Mr. Riley dresses is very unamusing attire. Shall we say? He does that when he feels the need to get gritty, as he classifies the practice. He leads to remarkable exclusive life most of the time and is man accustomed to getting anything he wants, everything he wants, to be more precise. So once in a while he does things to ensure his modesty and humanity remain in check. That's a part of his quickly charm. I might add, Mr. Raleigh asked me to give these to you. The driver pulled out two envelopes made of the highest quality papers. On opening them, the entrepreneur and artist saw these words: Hey cats, hope you are awesome. Didn't man to spoke you both yesterday. I just needed to keep my boots on the ground. Epictetus, one of my favorite philosophers, wrote, but neither a bull nor a noble spirited man comes to be what he is all at once. He must undertake hard winter training and prepare himself, not propel himself rashly into what is not appropriate to him. Voluntary discomfort, whether by dressing as I did or by fasting once a week or by sleeping on the floor once a month, keep me strong, disciplined, and focused on the central few priorities my life built around. Anyhow, have a tremendous flight and I'll see you in the paradise soon, Big Hughes. The driver continued, please remember that appearance can be misleading and clothing doesn't convey one's characters. Yesterday you met a great man. Looks really do not reveal the quality of person. I guess neither does saving, proclaimed the artist, kicking a blackboard against the shiny Rolls Royce symbol at the center of one of the wheels. Mr. Raleigh would never tell you what I am about to tell you, as he is far too courteous and decent. But the gentleman you refer to as a derelict happens to be one of the wealthiest people in the world. Are you serious? Asked the entrepreneur, her eyes widening. I most certainly am. The driver smiled politely as he opened a door, waving a white gloved hand to welcome both passengers into the vehicles. The seat had marvelously musky smell of new leather. The wood paneling seemed like it had been prepared by hand by a small family of finicky craftspeople who built their reputation around these singular obsessions. Mr. Reilly made his favorite many years ago in a various commercial ventures. He was also an early investor in what has now become an international admired company. Direction prevents me from the monitoring the name, and if Mr. Raleigh found out I was speaking of finances matter with you, he'd be exceedingly disappointed. His instructions were simply to treat you with the utmost of care, along with assuring you of his sincerity and reliability, and to deliver you safely to Hangar 21. Hangar 21, the artist asked as he eased longly, longedly into the opulent vehicles like a rock star accustomed to this method of transport or hip hop artist ready for a weekend role. That's where Mr. Rally fleet of jets are kept, stated the drivers succinctly. Fleet questioned the entrepreneur, her beautiful brown eyes alive with a immensely curious look. Yes, was all the chauffeur would allow. There was a silence as the driver sped through the early morning streets. The artist looked out the window while rolling a bottle of water into one hand, absent, absent mindedly. He hadn't seen the sun rising in many years. Very special, truly beautiful, he admitted. Everything so peaceful at this time of the day, no noise, such peace, even though I feel tired right now. I can really think. Things seems clear. My attention isn't a mess. It feel like a rest of the world is asleep. What trans what what tranquility. The cavalry of wispy amber rays, the ethereal palette of the daybreak and the quietude of this moment left him encouraged. And awestruck, the entrepreneur studied the driver. So tell me more about your boss, she requested, restlessly toying with her device as she spoke. I can't tell you much more. He's more multiple billions of dollars. He given most of his money to charity. Mr. Rayleigh, the most fascinating, generous, and and compassionate person I knew. He also has incredible willpower along with having ironclad values such as honesty, empathy, integrity, and loyalty. And of course, he is also a real oddball. If I may be so bold as to say so, like a lot of very rich, we have noticed, agreed the entrepreneur, and interesting though. That makes you say he's odd. You will see, was the stark response. The Rolls soon arrived at a private airport. No sign of Mr. Riley. The driver accelerated up to an Invory jet that looked immaculately kept. The only color is boar appeared on the tail in the hue of Mandarin orange. Three character read 5AC. What does 5AC stand for? Asked the entrepreneur tensely, gripping her gadget tightly. The 5 a.m. club, own your morning, elevate your life. It's one of the maxims Mr. Riley has conducted his many business interests under. And now, with regret, this is where I must bid you adieu. A reviewer, he said before carrying the luggage over the sparkling aircraft. Two handsome crew members chatted near the metal stairway that led up to the cabin. A tastefully refined blown flight attendant handed the entrepreneur and the artist hot towel and offered them coffee from a silver tray. Dorvo Otro, she said, greeting them in a Russian. It has been a great pleasure to meet you, the driver called up to the jet. As he got back into the car, kindly convey my best wishes to Mr. Raleigh once you see him. And do have fun in Mauritius. 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 And do have fun in Mauritius. Mauritius, the companion exclaimed as surprised as a vampire walking up to the garlic clove. This is all unraveling, unbelievable. The artist said as he climbed into the cabin. Mauritius, I have always wanted to go to that Iceland, and I have read a bit about it. It's a high frequency place, French flavor, tremendous beauty, and from what they say, many of warmest and happiest people on the earth live there. I'm blown away too, the entrepreneur said as he sipped her coffee and peeked into the cockpit. She studied the pilots as they performed their pre flight preparation. I have also heard Mauritius is splendid and that the people are super friendly, helpful, and spiritually advanced. After a perfect takeoff, the first class plane floated high into the clouds. Once at a cruising altitude, premiums campaign was served. Champagne was served. Savior was recommended and an array of fabulous main courses were suggested. The entrepreneur was feeling fairly content and far less incited by the cruel attempt of her investor to take her company away from her. True, this might not be the ideal time to take a vacations to learn about the 5 AM club philosophy and its underlying methodology that had served Mr. Riley ascent to the business titan and global philanthropist like a rocket fuel. Or perhaps this was a perfect time to get away from her usual reality to discover how the most successful, influential, and joyful people on the planet start their days. After sipping on some champagne, the entrepreneurs watched a movie. She then fell into a deep sleep. The artist had a book called Michelangelo Fiorentino et Raphael da Urbino, master of the art in the Vatican. He read it for hours. You can just imagine how happy he felt. The jet made its trajectory over the number of vast continents and about varied varied terrain. The flight was meticulously conducted and the landing was fluid as the overall experience was fine. We Avenue U. Ali Morris announced the captain over the public address system as the aircraft taxied along the freshly paved runway. Mercy, walk up. Welcome to Mauritius and Sir C. Siposogar Ramogolam International Airport. He continued speaking his words with a well earned confidence of someone who had spent most of his life in the sky. It's been a privilege having to you VIP with us. We all see you again in a several days. From what Mr. Raleigh person assistant has informed us for your eterni- itinerary, thank you once again for flying with us and we trust what journey was elegant, excellent, above all else safe. A polished black SUV glittered on the tarmac as a flight attendant escorted her special passengers off the plane and into the humming vehicles. Your luggage will follow shortly. Not to worry, it shall be delivered to your guest room at Mr. Raleigh Seaside State. Spasiva, she added in a graceful tone and with an earnest wave. This is so a list. Observed the entrepreneur as he happily snapped some selfies uncharacteristically, putting like a fashionista. Deaf replied the artist as he photobombed her, sticking out his tongue like Albert Einstein did in that famous photo that betrayed his seriousness as a scientist and revealed his undiminished, childlike sense of wonder. As a Range Rover rolled along the highway, tall stalks of sugar cane swayed in the fragrant breeze blown by the Indian Ocean. The quiet chauffeur wore a white cap, the kind you see bellman at a five-star hotel bearing an well pressed dark grey uniform that hinted at an understand unstated yet refined professionalism. He never missed swallowing down when the speed limit descended and ensuring his signal light was on whenever a turn was to be made. Though it was evident that the man was older, he moved the vehicle along the roadway with a precision of young appa- apprentice dedicated to becoming an absolute best. Through the driver, his focus remained transfixed on the pavement ahead in a sort of trance designed to keep his passengers secure yet deliver them to their destination with a smooth efficiency. They passed through some tiny village that had a timeless feel. Vaughan Villa lined the streets, wild dogs with kings of the road. Dimnors stood at the meridian line, confronting the SUV in the deadly game of chicken. The children played on a small, grassy lawn with thoughtless abandon. Roosters could be heard shrinking from time to time, and old men in basic woolen hats with a tooth, missing mouths, and chestnut colored skin sat on weather beaten wooden chairs. They looked like they had too many hours to pass in the day. At once tired from life's hardships and yet wished from days fully lived. Chores of upbeat birds sang melody while colorful butterflies seemed to be fluttering everywhere. In one tiny community, the SUV snagged through a sneaky boy with legs that appeared too long for his body. Paddled a banana bike with a seat on with a seat that was set too high on its creaky metal frame. In another, a game of teenaged girl in a tank tops, surf short and flip flops suffered along the narrow but attentively maintained roads, following a man in army green cargo shorts wearing a t-shirt that had the number one flame grilled chicken printed on the back of it. Everything seemed to move on Iceland time. People looked cheerful, they beamed with a radiant vitality not so commonly seen in the over scheduled, machine dominated and sometimes soulless lives so many among us are experiencing. The beaches were unspeakably beautiful. The gardens were entirely glorious, and the entire Gauguin looking scene was draped by a series of mountains that looked like they had been curved by the 16th century Florentine sculptor. See that structure up there, the driver said, breaking his self imposed silence and pointing to rock formation at the top of one of the peaks that resembled a human figure. That's called Peter Both. It's the second highest mountain in the Mauritius. See the summit up there. It resembles a human head, right? He noted with a finger pointed upward at the structure. It definitely does, responded the artist. When We were in elementary school, the chauffeur continued. We were old the story of the man who fell asleep at the foot of the mountain. Hearing a strange sound, he woke up to see fairies and angels dancing all about him. These creatures instructed the man never to tell anyone what he had just seen or he would be turned to a stone. He agreed, but then, given his excitement over the mystical experience he'd witnessed, broke his commitment and told many of his good fortune. Upset the fairies and angels turned him to rock, and his head swelled to such a degree it rose to sit at the peak of majestic mountain you both are looking at now, reminding everyone who sees it to keep their promises and honor their words. The SUV meandered past another community. Music played from a small loudspeaker on a front porch as two teenaged boys and three teenaged girls with white and pink flowers in their danced gleefully. Another dog wagged and modestly in the background. Great story, noted the entrepreneur. Her window was open and her wavy brown hair flitted in the wind. Her usually lined face now appeared completely smooth. She enunciated her words more slowly now. The apprehended, unprecedented peacefulness emerged from her voice. One of her hand rested on a seat not so far from where the hand of the artist, which bore finely is tattoos on its middle and index finger. Lay Mark Twain wrote, Morris was made first and then Haven and Haven copied Morris. The driver said now warming up after being somewhat steely. He beamed as proudly as a president on inauguration day after saying what he had just said. Never seen anything like this, the artist said. His goth meets angry man hostility now replaced with a more untroubled, carefree, and relaxed demeanor. And the vibe I feel here is stirring something deeply creative inside of me. The entrepreneur glanced at the artist for a little longer than was politely acceptable. Then she looked away out at the sea. Though reluctant, she couldn't help but smile gently. The driver could be heard whispered into the SUV's speakerphone 5 minutes away. Then he handed each of his passengers a handcrafted tablet that seemed made of gold. Please study these, and he told them. Engraved finely in the apparently precisely metal were five statements. Here, what the tablet looked like. Rule 1. In addition to distractions, is the end of your creative productions. Empire makers and history creators take 1 hour for themselves before dawn. In the serenity that lies beyond the clutches of complexity, to prepare themselves for a world class day. Rule 2. Excuses breed no genius. Just because you haven't installed the early rising habit before doesn't mean you can't do it now. Release your rationalizations and remember that a small daily improvement, when done consistently over time, lead to a stunning result. Rule 3. All changes is hard at first, messy in the middle and gorgeous at the end. Everything you now find easy, you first found difficult. With a consistent practice, getting up with a sun will become your new normal and automatic. Rule 4: to have the result the top 5% of producers have, you must start doing what 95% of people are unwilling to do. As you start to live like this, the majority will call you crazy. Remember that being labeled a freak is price of greatness. Rule 5: when you feel like a surrendering, continue. Triumph loves the relentless. The vehicle slowed to a crawl as it passed an orderly row of faded white witch houses. A compact pickup truck was parked in the dusty driveway of one house. Dive gear was steered across the front yard of another. In front of the last house, a gaggle of kids played in the played in yard, laughing has hysterically as they enjoyed their game. The ocean appeared both greenish and bluish with foam topped waves making sousing sound before colliding with sandy shore. The air now smelled a marine life smell, yet sweet like nectar with unexpected cinnamon hints blended into it. On a wide plank dock, a thin line of man with a Santa Claus weird and rolled up khakis feast wore foot for his family dinner. A motorcycle helmet was posed on his old head. The sun was beginning to set, a glamorous sphere of blinding radiance that cast liquid yellow streaks and reflections on the welcoming water that lay before it. Birds still chirped, butterflies still flew, quite magical all of this. We are here, announced the chow- chauffeur into the intercom, preased beside the metal fence that seemed to have been erected more to keep wildlife out than to prevent interlopers from getting in. The gate opened slowly. The SUV rolled down a winding road teeming with bougainvillea, hibiscus, frangipani, and vocal D. orally, the national flower of Mauritius. Along the side, the driver opened his window, inviting in a sea breeze, carrying a swirling scent that also included fresh jasmine mixed with rich roses. Gardeners in a smart gardening attire waved sincere wave. One shouted bonjour as the vehicles sailed by. Another said bonjour as the two fat doves the size of the truckers first hope along a stone path. The billionaire house was low key. The design was of the beachfront chic sort, kind of the Martha's vineyard cottage meets Swedish farmhouse feel. It was both sensationally beautiful and completely private. A massive veranda at the back of home extended over the ocean. A muddy mountain bike leaned against a wall. Surfboard rested near the end of driveway. Massive floor to ceiling windows were the only extravagant architectural flourish. More precise, more precious flowers were meticulously arranged along the deck where the trolley supporting horse Diover's assorted cheeses and services of fresh lemon tea with a precisely cut slices of ginger weighted. Sun bleached grey steps wound down to a breath, breathtakingly lovely beach, the type seen in the travel magazine, the elite crown like to read. Amid all this excuse, excuses, excuse, exec, executousness, execute, executeness, 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 the isolate figure stood on the milk colored sand. He made not one moment perfect stillness. The man was Eiffel Tower tall, shirtless and bronzed and supporting a pair of loose shorts with a camouflage pattern. Canary yellow sandal and uber stylish sunglass, the kind you might purchase on a Via di Candotti in Rome, completed the Suffer Gen Met Soho swagger appearance. He prepared out into the sea, remaining still as a star in the vague African sky. There said the entrepreneur, pointing, we finally get to see our host. The illustrious Mr. Riley, she noted energetically, picking up her piece as she hustled down the wooden stairs that led to the seashore. Look at him. He's just hanging out by the water, soaking up those rays and totally loving life. Told you he's special, so happy I trusted my gut and agreed to this wonderful scapade. He's been true to his word in a world where too many people say things they never do and make promises they fail to keep. He's been super consistent. He's treated us so well. He doesn't even know us. And yet, he's really trying to help us. Zero doubt in a mind by his got our backs. Hurry up, will you? She urged her slow moving companion as she waved an encouraging hand. I feel like giving Mr. Raleigh a Gant hug. The artist laughed as a baby Checo Joy walked across the broad plank. He took off his black shirt in dazzling sunshine, exposing the Buddha sized belly and man breasts the size of fleshy mangoes. Me too. He does walk his peach. Man, I need to get some sun. The painter murmured as he sped up to stay close to the entrepreneur. He breathed hard. As the two guests walked towards the man at the water edge of this nirvana of the ocean compound, they observed there were no other house in sight. Not even one, just a few wooden fishing boat with paint pleated off from the passage of years moored in the shallow waters near the shore. And aside from the sun worshipping empire builder in Italian shades, there was no other human being in evidence anywhere. Mr. Raleigh shouted at the artist. Now, on the sand, hungrily sucking air into his extraordinary unfit lungs, the slender figure remained as fixed as placed guard awaiting the arrival of the royal motorcade. Mr. Raleigh echoed the entrepreneur passionately. No response. The man just kept looking out the sea and at container seep at the size of football stadium that sat sprinkled across the horizon. The artist soon stood behind the set of intensely tained shoulders of the figure and tapped 3 times of the left one. Instantly the figure spun around. The two visitors gasped. The entrepreneur put a slender hand over her mouth. The artist jerked backward instinctively, instinctively before falling to the sand. Both are stunned by what they saw. It was the spellbinder. As now the chapter 6 has been completed, we'll come with the next chapter.